Hey guys, welcome back. So in this video we're gonna create, or actually we're just gonna set up our router, and including the router store. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna install the NgRx router store. Router store. Make sure I spell that right. Alright, and I'm just gonna ngserve and have that running in the background. So I'm just gonna make a new terminal here. Let's actually make sure I open up the correct thing. And okay, cool. I don't have the server running, so that's this error message right here. Anyways, and we're gonna see. Let's start with our app routing module. So right here, we just need to add routes. And right now we only have the auth component. So which is fine. I'm just gonna add that. So path is going to be slash auth, and we're going to render the auth component. Later, we're going to use lazy loading to have, what's it called? Uh, um, 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 Lazy loaded modules, so these paths will have a different property. Instead, it'll be called load children. But for now, we're just gonna render the auth component at slash auth. And right now, the home route is this. So I'm actually gonna get rid of the auth component and put in the router outlet. Router outlet here. And if we go into our app, our auth component is no longer rendering until we go to the slash auth route. And only here is when the router component is finally rendered. Now, because of navigation, we're gonna add a navbar component. So I'm just gonna do ng generates, and I want this to be inside the components directory. I'll just call it navbar. Ng generate. Dash m app. No? Oh, right. Ng generate components slash navbar. And we're going to put it inside of the app module. So dash m is for module. There we go. And we're just going to populate this really quick. I'm going to get rid of this test file. I don't want to go over test right now. So here we're just going to, in our app component HTML, we're just going to pop the navbar right here at the top. And navbar works. Alright, cool. Let's actually make that pretty. So what was the thing that I need? So in the UI module, we're gonna import a thing from PrimeNG, and I'm gonna put it right here because I want to keep it in alphabetical order. From PrimeNG slash menu bar, and that is gonna be right here. Menu bar module, comma. And that's what the nav bar is going to be. It's just going to be a nav or a menu bar provided by PrimeNG. And I think that's p dash menu bar. And I'm also going to put in a button. So button here with the attributes of p button icon is going to be font awesome fa.sign out, and this is going to be label of auth for now. Whoops. We'll change that in a bit. And then of course we need to add our router link, and I'm just going to do /auth. So let's test that out. And there's our menu bar with the auth. So if we go to the root route, so home, we could press auth and it'll take us to the router or the auth component. So let's change this up a little bit to make it a little more better. So I'm going to add a dependency to our auth service. Service, so that we can change our label here. So we're gonna check auth service.token. If it exists, then it's gonna say login, and if it doesn't exist, then it's just gonna say logout, like so. And right now it's gonna say logout. Which I don't. Let's kill local storage. I should say login. Oh well. Let me see. Is this correct? Auth service.login. Well, that's not a huge deal, so I'm gonna create the items now for menu item array, and these menu items is gonna be what is populating in the nav menu bar. So I'm gonna do model, I believe, is the property that you want, and items is gonna be a property that we're creating. So this so far doesn't do anything. And first one's going to be a label to home with the router link of /, and I'm going to give it an icon of font awesome home. Alright, so once that's saved, we can have our little home icon, or so we go home and we can also go to the auth page. Okay, now let's close that out. So we have our navbar and we have our router outlet. Now the only thing left to do is actually implement our NgRx store. So I'm gonna open up our Redux store DevTools so that we can see it. And I don't like this. I'm gonna add a little bit of margin on the top. So I'm just gonna do 1 rem to the top, give it some spacing, like so. And alright. So the visuals are out of the way, so let's focus on the actual code. So let's see. So I'm gonna make a new file called router.reducer.ts. Now we don't have to make actions or effects for this because NgRx gives us everything that we need for the router reducer. We just need to set up the state. So let's see. Where's the thing? So in our router reducer, we're going to import a couple things from Angular/router, and we're also going to import everything as from router from the NgRx router store. And here we just need to create the router state, and I'm gonna call it router state URL, mostly because router state is already a keyword that'll overlap with things from the Angular router. So in here, what I want is the URL, which is gonna be a string. We're gonna need query params, I think. If we don't, it'll be nice to have. And this is gonna be of type params, which comes from the Angular router. And then we're gonna have another property of params, which is also type params. So, and then finally we need to create a custom serializer. Serializer, and the custom serializer is basically from router dots, and what was this thing called? Router state serializer, and the type we're going to give it is router state URL, and this has to return, it has to have a function called serialize, which returns turn thing. Alright, so what the serializer is, it'll take the what's this called? Router state of type router state snapshot. So it'll take the router state from Angular, and then it'll put it into the format of what we want to read, which is this, the router state URL that we just created. And it's right now it's mad at us because we're returning an empty object where it's actually expecting this object. So first we're gonna, let's see, let's destructure the things. So I want the URL from router state, and nested destructure always weirds me out. So it's query params. Okay, and that'll give us the URL and the query params, and now we just need params. So let's see. I'm gonna call it state, which is of type activated route snapshot equals to router state dot root. And we have to do this because the router state is actually a tree object, a tree data structure, so we have to loop through it to get the very last node. And we're just going to use a while loop for this, mostly because we don't know the end or how long the length is, so we can't use a for loop. And we're just going to do first child and reassign state to state.firstChild. And once this loop is done, we could finally do some destruction to get the params out of state and provide it in our object here. Okay. So this is all you need for your router reducer. Everything else you would have to do is going to be living inside of the App Store module. And in here, let's make sure I add the stuff here. Import from NgRx / router store. Okay. Let's see. Trying to remember. Router store. goes into app state. We're going to call it router. And this is from the router store that we get router reducer state, and this is router state URL. So this part is from the NgRx store, which will convert our router state URL to something that the NgRx will understand. And now our reducer is mad because it's not optional. So we need to add a router reducer. And this is going to be router reducer, which comes from the NgRx store or the router store. And I think that's all we need. Believe so. Oh, we also need to add some more modules. So let's see, which one was it? Okay, so we need store router connecting module, and which I still need to import. Yep. So all of this is coming from the router store. And then we also need to provide the custom serializer that we just used. So we're going to provide, and this is going to be called router state serializer. And we're going to use class of custom serializer. Okay, so quite a bit that just happened, but let's first check our imports. Okay, so what's happening here is with Angular's dependency management, every time that it sees router state serializer, it's gonna replace it with our use class property with our custom serializer. And this is just so that our router state gives us exactly what we want. So once we save all of that, let's check if we need to recompile. It doesn't look like it, so let's go in here. So everything looks pretty much the same, except now you'll notice in our Redux DevTools that we have router navigation. And this is coming from the router store. And if we click this, we can see the exact state that we have. Now, the state that we define is right here. And then navigation end is keeping track of the amount of navigation that happens within the application. So right now it's at 1. So the next route that we hit will trigger that to go to 2 and also fill out these things. So if we go to the home route, there's another router trigger. And you can see that auth is now replaced with slash, and navigation ID is replaced with the trigger of 2. And if we look into the state, this is the router state that we have. Whereas error and auth is basically the same. I don't think the chart view is actually all that helpful. Does the tree view help? A little bit, I guess. No, I like looking at the state. Anyways, so yeah. Our app router is set up. We could start adding more paths into our application now, and we can route to them. And then we have the router reducer happening, so our Redux store is taking into account the navigation as well. All right, yeah, that's all that I wanted to get over with. Or let me just do this: git status, git add Boop. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.